The airport smelled like stale coffee and broken promises. I stood there in my uniform, duffel bag at my feet, watching couples reunite all around me. Hugs, tears, kisses. But my wife wasn't there, after 18 months in a war zone. After counting down every single day until I could hold her again, Sarah wasn't there to pick me up. I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls, nothing. That's when I knew something was wrong. It's terribly, devastatingly wrong. But what I didn't know nobody knew was that I'd been carrying a secret of my own. A secret that would turn everything upside down. I caught an Uber home, my stomach twisting tighter with every mile. We'd video chatted just 3 days ago. Sarah had seemed ... different. Distant? She'd cut the call short, saying she had a headache. Convinced myself I was being paranoid. 18 months of combat deployment does that to you. Makes you see threats everywhere. The driver dropped me off in front of our little 2-bedroom house in the suburbs. The lawn needed mowing. Sarah's car was in the driveway. She was home. My heart hammered as I walked up the path. I'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. In my fantasies, she'd run into my arms. We'd laugh and cry, and I'd carry her over the threshold like newlyweds. I pushed open the front door. Sarah, honey, I'm home. Silence. Then I heard it. A male voice upstairs. Laughing, my blood turned to ice. I dropped my duffel bag and moved toward the stairs, my combat training kicking in. Silent, controlled, every sense on high alert. The bedroom door was half open. And what I saw through that? Crack destroyed me, Sarah, my wife. The woman I'd pledged my life to, in our bed, with someone else. But here's the thing that made it worse, so much worse. It wasn't a stranger, it was Marcus. My best friend since high school, the guy who'd been my best man at our wedding. The guy I'd asked to check on Sarah while I was deployed. To make sure she was safe, I stood there, frozen, watching my entire world collapse. Sarah turned and saw me. Her face went white. Jake, don't. My voice came out cold, dead. Don't. Say my name. Marcus scrambled out of bed, grabbing his clothes. Brother, I can explain. You're not my brother. I cut him off. Get out, both of you. Get out of my house. Sarah was crying, begging, reaching for me. Jake, please, let me explain. It just happened. We didn't mean how long. I asked. My hands were shaking. Shoved them in my pockets. She looked at the floor. 6 months. 6 months. Deployment. I was dodging bullets and IEDs, thinking about her every night. She'd been here with him. I need you both out, now. Marcus left first, not even looking at me. Coward. Sarah grabbed my arm. Where am I supposed to go? Call your mother. Call your sister. I don't care. You're not staying here. This is my house too. The house my combat. Pay has been funding while you've played house with my best friend? My voice was rising now, and I forced it back down. Pack a bag, you've got 10 minutes. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Good, because I didn't recognize her either. After she left, I sat on the couch in the dark for hours. My phone kept buzzing. It's messages from Sarah. From Marcus. I deleted them without reading. Then I pulled out a different phone. A burner phone I'd been carrying in my duffel bag for the last 3 months, and I made a call. It's me, I said. When someone answered, we need to move up the timeline. Everything's changed. You see, there's something I haven't told you yet. Something Sarah didn't know. Something nobody knew, except for 5 people in the entire world. 3 months ago, while I was deployed, I'd been approached by 2 men in civilian clothes. They'd shown me credentials from a 3-letter agency I can't name, and they'd made me an offer. They had intelligence that a major financial crime network was operating in our area. Money laundering, fraud, connections to terrorist financing. And they needed someone on the inside. Someone with a clean record. Someone above suspicion. Someone married to Sarah Chen. Sarah's father, David Chen, was a prominent businessman. Import-export company, mostly dealing with electronics from Asia. Legitimate on the surface. But these men showed me evidence bank. Transfers, shell companies. Encrypted communications that suggested something darker underneath, and they wanted me to gather proof at first. I'd refused. Told them to investigate someone else's family. But then they'd shown me something that changed everything. Photos of Sarah at expensive restaurants. Wearing jewelry I'd never seen, getting into luxury cars with men I didn't recognize. While I was deployed, Sarah had been living a double life. The agency proposed a deal. Come home early from deployment, move back in, and plant surveillance equipment in the house. They believed Sarah was involved in her father's operations. Maybe unwittingly, maybe not. They needed proof. I'd agreed. Not for them, for me, because I needed to know the truth about who I'd married. The deployment was supposed to last another 3 months, but I'd requested emergency leave, claimed a family crisis, and come home unannounced. I wanted to surprise Sarah. Well, I'd gotten my surprise. But now, sitting in that dark living room, I realized I'd been given something else. The perfect cover story. The betrayed husband. The devastated soldier. Nobody would question why I was. Angry, withdrawn, acting different, and nobody would suspect what I was really doing. Over the next week, I played the part perfectly. The wounded warrior trying to pick up the pieces of his shattered life. Sarah moved in with her parents. She kept calling, texting, begging for another chance. I responded just enough to keep the door cracked open to keep her from filing for divorce immediately. Because divorced meant separate households. And I needed access to the Chen family. Marcus tried to apologize too. I told him we'd talk eventually when I was ready. I wasn't ready. I'd never be ready. But I needed him to think forgiveness was possible. Meanwhile, I installed the equipment. Cameras and air vents, audio devices and smoke detectors, a keystroke logger on our home computer. My handlers had given me everything I needed. The data started flowing immediately. Sarah wasn't just living a double life. She was drowning in debt, gambling debt, online shopping addiction. Credit cards maxed out. She'd been stealing from her father's company to cover her tracks. But there was more, so much more. Through the surveillance, I discovered that Marcus wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was using her. He was a low-level player in a drug distribution network. And he'd been using Sarah's connection to her father's import business to smuggle product into the country. Sarah had no idea, she thought. Marcus loved her. She thought he was her escape from her boring marriage to a soldier who was always gone. She was a pawn. And so was I, but the real bombshell came when I followed Sarah to her father's office one evening. David Chen was meeting with 3 men. I recognized one of them from intelligence briefings overseas, Viktor Sokolov. Russian organized crime. Kind of man who made entire families disappear. I took photos from across the street, my hands steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Then I sent them to my handlers. The response was immediate. Stand by. Do not engage. Surveillance. But I couldn't stand by. Not anymore, because I'd just realized something that changed everything. Sarah's father wasn't the mastermind of this operation. He was another victim. I did something I wasn't supposed to do. I broke protocol. I confronted David Chen directly. Showed up at his office late one night, when I knew he'd be working alone. He looked up in surprise when I walked in. "Jake, I heard about you and Sarah." "I'm sorry, son." "Don't call me son," I said. "And don't pretend you don't know why I'm really here." His face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos. Viktor Sokolov, at the meetings. "You're in over your head, David, and you're going to get people killed? Maybe yourself. Maybe Sarah." He crumbled. Right there in his expensive leather chair, this powerful businessman just fell apart. "They have my brother," he whispered. "Back in China, they said if I don't cooperate, they'll kill him. His wife, his children. I didn't have a choice." Story came pouring out. 5 years ago, Victor's organization had approached David, claiming they'd kidnapped his brother during a business trip to Guangzhou. They'd provided proof of life and demands. Use your import business to smuggle goods into the United States, or your brother dies. David had complied. At first it was just merchandise, counterfeit electronics, luxury goods. Then it escalated. Narcotics, weapons components. Money laundering through shell corporations. "Wanted to go to the police," David said, tears streaming down his face. "But they showed me what they do to informants. They sent me ... pictures. Video. I couldn't risk my brother's family. Does Sarah know? No, I've kept her away from all of it. She knows the business is struggling financially, but she doesn't know why. She doesn't know about any of this. That's when I made a decision that would either save us all or destroy us. I'm going to help you, I said, but you need to trust me completely. Can you do that? David looked at me like I was crazy. Sure. Just a soldier. What can you do against these people? I'm not just a soldier, I said, and I told him everything. Over the next 2 weeks, David Chen and I orchestrated the most dangerous con of our lives. My agency handlers weren't happy when I brought them David. They wanted to arrest him. She used him as a witness. I convinced them we could do better. We could take down the entire network, rescue David's brother, stop a major criminal operation. The plan was complex, it's risky, and probably insane. First, we had to get Sarah and Marcus out of the picture. I convinced Sarah to come home, told her we needed to talk about reconciliation. She jumped at the chance. When she arrived, I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just told her the truth or a part of it. I know about your debt, I said. I know you've been stealing from your father's company. I know Marcus has been using you. She broke down completely, admitted everything. The gambling, the shopping addiction, the stealing. She'd taken nearly $200,000 from her father's accounts over the past year. Marcus said he loved me, she sobbed. He said we'd run away together. I was going to tell you everything when you got back. I was going to ask for a divorce. But then he started asking me to do things to help him move packages through Dad's warehouse. I didn't know what was in them. Swear I didn't know. I believed her. She was stupid, selfish, addicted, unfaithful, but she wasn't evil. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to check yourself into rehab today. Right now. You're going to stay there for 60 days. Minimum. Without phone calls, no visitors, complete isolation. Jake, this isn't a negotiation. Sarah, you do this, or I turn over everything I know to the FBI, and you go to prison. You're not just an adulteress, you're an accessory to drug trafficking. She went pale. What about Marcus? Marcus is going away for a very long time. Trust me on that. Sarah agreed. She didn't have a choice. Marcus was easier. I told him I wanted to meet, to talk things out. Came to a bar downtown, hopeful that I might actually forgive him. I recorded our entire conversation. Got him to admit everything on tape. His involvement with the drug network, how he'd manipulated Sarah, how he'd been using David Chen's import business as a cover then. I handed the recording to the DI. Marcus was arrested within 48 hours. Now came the hard part. The agency's plan was brilliant and terrifying in equal measure. We would stage a fake shipment, one that appeared to contain the narcotics and weapons components Viktor Sokolov's network wanted, but was actually filled with tracking devices and surveillance. Equipment. David would act normally, following all of Victor's instructions. The shipment would move through the normal channels David's warehouse, then distribution to various locations across the country. But every step would be monitored. Every person who touched the merchandise would be identified. When the network was finally mapped completely, law enforcement would strike simultaneously across 12 states. The risk? If Victor suspected anything, David's brother and his family would die. If the operation failed, David would likely be killed too. And me? I'd be a target for the rest of my life, but we were committed. The shipment arrived from overseas on a Tuesday morning. I watched from a surveillance van across the street as David's workers unloaded shipping containers at his warehouse. Everything looked normal, then Victor showed up. He wasn't supposed to be there. He never came to the warehouse personally, to much risk of exposure. But there he was, walking through the loading dock with 2 bodyguards, inspecting the merchandise. My handler grabbed my arm. Something's wrong, he suspects. Victor called David over. Through the parabolic microphone, we heard every word. Open container 7, Victor said. Shh. Which one is, which one, David? The one that's different from all the others? Open. My blood ran cold. Container 7 was where we'd placed the tracking devices. If Victor discovered them, everything would fall apart. David's hands were shaking as he approached the container. He was going to give us away, I could see it. In his body language. The fear was written all over his face. I made a split-second decision. I got out of the van. "What are you doing?" my handler hissed. "You'll blow your cover. David's about to blow everything anyway. I'm going in." I walked across the street in broad daylight, straight toward the warehouse. One of Victor's guards spotted me and reached for his weapon. "Stop right there," I raised my hands. "I'm Jake Morrisa, David's son-in-law. I'm here to pick up some personal items my wife left in the office." Victor turned to look at me. His eyes were cold, calculating. "You're the soldier, the husband. That's right. The one whose wife was sleeping with another man." "Yeah, that's me." He studied me for a long moment. Then, incredibly, he smiled. "You have my sympathy. Women are treacherous creatures. My own wife betrayed me once." He paused. Once the implication was clear. "David," Victor said, turning back. "Your son-in-law is here. Perhaps you should take care of him while I finish inspecting the shipment." David looked like he might pass out, but he nodded. "Of course." "Jake, come with me to the office." As we walked away, I whispered, "Stall him. 5 minutes." "What are you, 5 minutes? Trust me, trust me." What happened next? I pieced together later from the surveillance footage and witness statements, while David stalled in the office. Pretending to look for Sarah's imaginary belongings, I circled back through the warehouse. My military training kicked in silent movement, using cover, staying out of sight lines. Victor had forced open container 7. His men were inspecting the contents. I watched from behind a stack of pallets. As one of the bodyguards discovered the tracking device, he held it up, showed it to Victor. Victor's face darkened. He pulled out his phone. I knew what was about to happen. He was going to make a call. And David's brother, thousands of miles away in China, would be executed within the hour. I couldn't let that happen. I stepped out from cover, looking for me. Every gun in the warehouse swung in my direction. Victor raised an eyebrow. "The soldier returns." "How convenient." "I'm the one who set this up," I said. "David had nothing to do with it. His brother had nothing to do with it. This is all me." "Jake, no!" David shouted from the office doorway. Victor smiled. It was the most terrifying smile I'd ever seen. "Interesting. Why would you do such a thing?" "Why would a betrayed soldier care about his father-in-law's illegal activities?" "Because I'm not just a soldier," I said. "I'm CIA, and you're under arrest." Victor laughed. "You think you can arrest me here? Now, you and what army?" That's when the doors exploded open. FBI, DATF, local police. They came. From every direction, dozens of agents in tactical gear, weapons drawn, U.S. Marshals, on the ground, hands where we can see them. Victor's men didn't even try to resist. They dropped their weapons and went prone immediately. But Victor just stood there, still smiling. "You've made a mistake, soldier, a terrible mistake. You may have me, but my organization is vast. You haven't saved David's brother. You've condemned him." That's when I played my final card. I pulled out my phone and held up a video. On the screen was a Chinese police officer standing in front of a safe house, with David's brother and his family alive, safe, being led to police vehicles. "The Chinese government was very interested to learn about your operations in Guangzhou," I said. "Turns out they don't like Russian organized crime operating in their territory. They raided your safe house 3 hours ago. David's brother is in protective custody." The smile finally left Victor's face. "It's over," I said. The arrests made national news. 47 people were taken into custody across 12 states. Assets worth over $200 million were seized. The investigation led to indictments of public officials, corrupt police officers, and dozens of mid-level criminals. David Chen was granted immunity in exchange for his testimony and cooperation. His brother and his family were relocated to the United States under new identities. Marcus got 15 years in federal prison. I never saw him again. Sarah completed her rehab program. She called me when she got out, asking if we could meet. We met at a coffee shop downtown. She looked different, clearer somehow, more present. The addictions had hollowed her out. but rehab had begun to fill her back up with something real. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said. "I don't expect you to take me back. I just wanted to say thank you for not letting me destroy myself completely, for giving me a chance to get clean." "I didn't do it for you," I said honestly. "Did it because it was the right thing to do." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know. That's why I loved you. That's why I married you, and that's why I don't deserve you." "No," I agreed. "You don't." She slid divorce papers across the table. "Already signed. I'm moving to California, starting over. My dad got me a job at a nonprofit that helps trafficking victims. Turns out being used and manipulated gives me some useful perspective." I looked at the papers. Our marriage reduced to a legal document. For years together, finished with a signature. I signed them. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said. "I hope you do too," she said. "And Jake, I really am sorry for everything." She left. I watched her go, and I felt nothing. No anger, no love, no regret, just closure. 3 months later, I got a call from my CIA handler. "We need to talk," he said, "in person." We met at a secure location, one of those anonymous office buildings that could have been anything. He led me to a conference room where 2 other people were waiting. One was a woman I'd never met. The other was David Chen. "Jake," David said, standing to shake my hand. "Thank you for coming. What's this about?" The CIA handler gestured to the woman. "This is Director Chen. No relation to David, despite the coincidence in names. She runs a very specific division of our organization." Director Chen smiled. "We've been watching your work, Jake. The operation with Viktor Sokolov's network. The way you handled an impossible situation, made split-second decisions, saved lives. You have a unique skill set." "I'm just a soldier," I said warily. "You were a soldier," she corrected. "Your enlistment ended last month. You didn't rue up." It was true. After everything that had happened, I couldn't go back to my old unit. Too many memories. Too much had changed. "We'd like to offer you a position," Director Chen continued. "Not in the military. With us, there are situations that require someone who can operate in the gray areas, someone who understands sacrifice, duty, but can also think independently, someone who can make the hard choices. You want me to be a spy? I want you to be whatever? The mission requires soldier, spy, handler, investigator. The role changes depending on the need." I looked at David. He nodded encouragingly. "Take it from someone who learned this the hard way. We all have a choice about who we become. You can let what happened to you make you bitter and broken, or you can use it to become something better." Sat back in my chair, considering my marriage was over. My best friend had betrayed me. My old life was ash and rubble, but from those ashes, something new was emerging. "What would be my first assignment?" I asked. Director Chen smiled. "There's a man in Berlin, a financier, who's been moving money for terrorist organizations. He has a daughter, an American citizen, recently married to a Marine who's about to deploy overseas." I felt a chill run down my spine. "You want me to do to someone else what was done to me. You want you to stop a terrorist financing network. Whatever it takes." I looked at David. "Did you know about this?" "I recommended you," he said quietly. "Not because of what happened to you, but because of what you did with it. You could have destroyed Sarah, destroyed me, walked away and let everything burn. Instead, you saved lives. You found a way to make it right. Nothing about this is right," I said. Director Chen agreed. "It's not, but it's necessary. You're one of the few people who understands both the cost and the necessity." I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city below. Thousands of people going about their lives, completely unaware of the shadows that protected them. "I need to think about it," I said. "Take your time," Director Chen said, "but not too much time. The Marine deploys in 6 weeks. I never told you my decision. Maybe that's because I'm still making it every single day. What I learned from all of this is that betrayal isn't just about what people do to you. It's about what you choose to do next, whether you let it define you or refine you. Sarah betrayed me. Marcus betrayed me. But in the end, they weren't the ones who changed my life. I did that myself. Sometimes the secret you're holding isn't about them at all. Sometimes it's about discovering who you really are when everything you thought you knew falls apart. And that's the twist nobody sees coming, not even yourself. The question is, what will you discover?